The Deion Sanders standard is real, and I don't think people fully grasp why it is real.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys for tuning in. My everydayers, you guys know who you are. You tune in every day. You comment, you like, subscribe, whatever it is. I appreciate you. And I want you guys to know I love you guys being here. Let's talk about the Deion Sanders standard. So over the past few days, it was Big 12 Media Days, or they were the Big 12 Media Days, I guess. And Coach Prime was obviously the main event. Why wouldn't he be? I would say that Colorado, because of Coach Prime, is the biggest brand in the Big 12 at the moment. Now, obviously, there's programs like Utah. There's programs like Kansas State. There's programs like you could even throw in an Iowa State or a Baylor, Oklahoma State, who have had more success than Colorado has in recent years, right? But what they don't have is Deion Sanders, which, I mean, nobody does outside of Colorado. And a lot of people had questions for him and for how he approaches things and how he does things in Boulder. And one of the questions alluded to the fact that, or not alluded to, it basically was his judgment or him being judged at a different standard. And I think people, for the most part, whether they want to admit it or not, judge Deion Sanders at a different standard. And it's the Deion Sanders standard. Now, what does that mean? Well, let me tell you his response, and I'll tell you exactly what it means. He says, I'm judged on a different scale. My wins are totally different than your wins. Your wins, you just judge. That's why I start out giving you the education, academics, and so forth. I have to give you those things so you understand that there's a greater scope. I can't win 9 games and our GPA suffers. Our GPA can't high and we lose another 8 games. We can't not go and grab high school players and you've got a bunch of guys in the portal, out of the portal, getting incarcerated. My wins are different. You have to win in every area. That's the way we're judged. And so it's absolutely true. And it's kind of this double standard we have in a society. I think we see it all the time. Like, I don't want to compare apples to oranges, or I don't want to compare this program to that program, but let's use Georgia as an example. And this is going to get spicy, and it's not meant to, but it's just realistic. If Deion Sanders' program were to have, say, 2 DUIs within a week, I think all hell would break loose, right? It's Deion Sanders. He doesn't have control of his players. What's going on over there in Boulder? It's the culture. They got problems. Georgia, I saw a report today, they've had 24 car-related instances. I think that was how it was worded. I want to word it correctly so that way I am not spreading misinformation. But it was reported by The Athletic. 24. So per the AGC, there have been 24 incidents in which an individual associated with Georgia football has been apprehended by police for speeding, reckless driving, or DUI since January of 2023. So imagine if that was to happen to Coach Prime. Now, obviously, that's me creating a made-up scenario where Coach Prime's program is just absolutely running amok and stuff like that. But it's different, right? Coach Prime goes 4-8 in year one, and everyone's taking a you-know-what on him in the program. Colorado was 1-11 the year before, and they were bottom of the barrel as it gets in college football. They were the 2 bad things in college football that you don't ever under any circumstance want to be. 1, they were terrible. 2, they were irrelevant. If you are irrelevant and terrible, that is just as bad as being terrible, because not only are you terrible and your team's not winning, fan support's not there, which Colorado's never had an issue with fan support. So shout out to the Buff faithful there. But if no one cares about you, like, that's the difference between getting into a new conference or not. Like, Colorado hasn't had historic success, but because there is so much buzz around the program right now, they're back in the Big 12. Now, obviously, location plays a huge factor in that. Brett Yormark, one of the 4 corner schools. But imagine if Carl Durrell was still at the helm. I would imagine that Colorado would be at risk of getting that Oregon State, Washington State treatment. Like, let's be honest. Stanford, I think that's a great comparison, a program that I cover closely. They, in the 2010s, were the peak football program on the West Coast along with Oregon, right? They had Christian McCaffrey. They had three, I think it was three Heisman finalists. They produced a number one overall pick. They won a Pac-12 title here or there. They were the epitome of talent on the West Coast. Like when you thought of success on the West Coast in college football, it was Stanford. Like Oregon and Stanford were in an arms race. Washington hopped in a little late there. USC was down. Stanford, the past few years, struggled, right? And all of a sudden, all the success that they once had was kind of thrown out the window. And it was like, well, Stanford's not very good right now. Their fan base isn't very passionate. And it's like, do we really want them in our conference? So Stanford nearly was left out of this last wave of realignment. They, by the skin of their teeth, made it into the ACC. Now, obviously, they offer great academics and they have the best athletic program in all of college athletics. They win the Directors Cup seemingly every year. They were almost left out. So imagine a irrelevant and bad Colorado program. So Deion Sanders brings that energy. He brings that juice. And so for people to pretend that Deion Sanders isn't held to a higher standard, they are lying to themselves. They are lying to everyone around them because he is. It comes with his fame. It comes with the attention he brings. Now, are there coaches out there in college football that are probably not now, but Nick Saban, I think, is where I'm going at with this. Nick Saban was probably the closest person in college football that rivaled the fame of Deion Sanders. Now, Deion Sanders was probably still more famous because of his cultural impact, his impact as an athlete. He kind of spans across multiple generations. Like kids grow up and they know who Deion Sanders is. I think kids grow up and they learn who Nick Saban was. I feel like that's fair. But still, Deion Sanders isn't able to sort of just have certain things happen and get the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't get that benefit of the doubt. And I think people know why, but I don't think people are willing to admit it. And I think a lot of people, especially this quote that I read earlier, people took that quote out of context and totally blasted Coach Prime. The way I saw it presented the first time, and I'm not kidding, I saw a quote that says, Deion Sanders, my wins are totally different than your wins. And I was like, what does that mean? I was like, is he shooting someone else down? Is he shooting like, oh, this program, when you win, it doesn't mean as much or it means less? No, they took the quote out of context, excuse me, to make him look like he is just some big big egotistical guy. And it's like, that's not the case. He's being realistic. He knows that everything he does is magnified because of his stature, because of the fame he has, and because of the haters he has. Like, I hate to sound like a 12-year-old and be like, he has haters, but he does. Like, people don't understand. I talked about it yesterday with Colorado being people's Super Bowl, and people were like, wow, a lot of people won the Super Bowl last year. And it's like, again, you're choosing to miss the point so that way you could take a you-know-what on Colorado. And that's not the point of what I'm saying. And that's not the point of what Deion Sanders is saying by saying he is held to a higher standard, because he is held to a higher standard. It is what it is. I think, look at a program like, this is like Baylor. Baylor's a tough comparison because Dave Aranda's on the hot seat. But program like Cal, if you will. Like, this is just comparing apples. I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it. Cal is a program that has had past success, right? They were fairly solid in the 2010s, 2000 range. At one point, they were ranked in the top 10, I believe, with Keenan Allen and all those guys. Cal's over here struggling. Justin Wilcox has been at Cal for, and this isn't any indictment on Justin Wilcox. I've interviewed him. Very nice guy. Love his approach to the game. I just think that his sort of offense has been holding his program back because they've always have really solid defenses, but it's been their offense that gets them, that kind of stunts their success. So Justin Wilcox has been at Cal since 2017. He had a 5-7 season to open his tenure, 7-6 the next year. They were ranked as high as 24th. They lost their bowl game. 8-5 the next year, ranked as high as 15th. And then they went 1-3, 5-7, 4-8, 6-7. Justin Wilcox was just probably last year put on the hot seat, if we're being realistic. Deion Sanders, if he goes below 500 this year, he's going to be on the hot seat. Like, that's just the harsh reality. Like, he is going to be on the hot seat because it's going to be like, okay, you have your sons, you have Travis Hunter, you brought in a way better portal class, you said yourself, and it didn't work. not many coaches are put on the hot seat after year two. I think realistically, when you're thinking of programs like that, it was Oklahoma's Brent Venables. I think he was kind of on the hot seat after year, like going into year two. It was like, if he does this again, hot seat. Steve Sarkisian, same thing. 5-7, first year at Texas. And it's like, okay, if he does this again, hot seat. And those are like blue blood programs. Like Coach Prime is treated like he's a blue blood coach, or treated like he is at a perennial powerhouse at Colorado. Now, do I think he could get them there eventually? Yeah. If everything goes right and he starts recruiting a lot better and guys start succeeding at a higher clip, yes, Colorado could reach new heights. But again, every time they fail, it is going to be magnified far more than when they succeed. And I think that's kind of the Deion Sanders standard that I'm alluding to. And I think people need to realize that not everything he says needs to be a big deal. It's a big deal if you take it out of context, right? But it doesn't always need to be like, oh my gosh, look at the attention he's bringing to himself. He was answering questions. I think he acknowledges the fact that Colorado is held to a higher standard because he's there than it ever has before. And I think he acknowledges that people are going to criticize every little thing he does. And at least he knows that. It's hard to defend it, why people do that. It's hard to sort of accept that people are going to do that. But it's a reality. And that's the reality of Deion Sanders at Colorado. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the shade sort of thrown at, from Jay Norvell at Deion Sanders and Colorado. This episode of Locked on Bus is brought to you by our sponsors over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, with all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, so make sure to like, subscribe, follow my everydayers. Make sure to comment below who you are, so that way I can give you your recognition. This show wouldn't be possible without you guys. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. Let's talk about Jay Norvell, Colorado State head coach. So it was the Big 12 Media Days. It was the Mountain West Media Day. It was also the Pac-2 Media Day, all in Vegas over the past few days. And Jay Norvell had a few things to say. Not shocked. Let's just be real. So he was asked about Deion Sanders. He was asked about Shedeur Sanders. And I'm going to play the video so that way you guys could sort of develop your own opinions, if you will. I'm going to break down why I think, one, let me just tell you my stance real quick. I think Jay Norvell is doing all of the wrong things in terms of deflecting, in terms of creating issues where there doesn't need to be issues. He's throwing shade at Colorado. He did that with Deion Sanders and the sunglasses last year, where he said, "I'm an adult. I wear my." This is the exact quote. I don't want to lead you guys astray, but he said, "When I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and sunglasses off," and that was during a weekly radio show, and that was something that Deion Sanders took as a shot at his family, how he was raised. So Deion's Mama Sanders was in the mix, and she was like, "I raised my son right." It was an iconic moment, really. But Jay Norvell, I think, is missing the point on rivalries, in the sense of, like, you could not like another team. Like Michigan and Ohio State don't like each other, but they also don't give each other bulletin board material for the most part. I'm not going to say that there's not players or tweets or likes or retweets or whatever, where it's like, that wasn't needed. But I would say for the most part, they don't go out of their way to be like, yeah, that program up there, they're not that good. Our quarterback's better, blah, blah, blah. I just don't see that happening. So this is what he had to say about Colorado. I'm going to play the video real quick for you guys, and you guys can sort of experience this with me. So let's just go into teacher mode right here. Go to a little share screen action. Boom, boom. Boom. Boom.
I was reading about Colorado's quarterback. Colorado's quarterback is the all-time leading passer in Colorado history. He threw for 3,200 yards. So that means Braden's thrown for more yards than anybody in the Colorado program has ever thrown. I don't have any feelings for Deion Sanders. I really don't. I don't think about Deion Sanders. No. But I was reading about Colorado.
So obviously those clips were cut and edited, but I think the point is there. And then he said, this was the full quote. I don't have any feelings for Deion Sanders. I really don't. I don't think about Deion Sanders unless you guys ask me the question about him. No, nothing's changed. Because he was asked if there was like a friendship behind the scenes, and he's like, no. And so, one, the clear shot at Shedeur Sanders, who missed the final game of the season and obviously helped beat your team, is interesting. He brought up his quarterback, Braden Fowler, Nicolosi, I believe is how you say it. He was a redshirt freshman this past year. Really solid season, I would say, for the Rams. They had a solid year. I won't lie. They won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, 5 and 7. Not great. Obviously, they had more wins than Colorado, but Colorado beat them in the head-to-head, double overtime. Braden threw for 22 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. He threw for 3,400 yards. Shedeur Sanders, who missed a game, threw for, I believe, is 3,200 yards, something like that. Let me get the exact number. So Braden threw for 3,460, Shedeur 3,230. So obviously Shedeur plays a full game against Washington State, or is able to play against Utah, probably eclipses that. He had 5 more touchdowns in one less game, and Braden showed his inexperience. He threw 16 touchdowns, which Shedeur threw 3, and Braden's 16 touchdowns is 1 less than Shedeur has thrown in his entire college career. So 3 years. So he threw almost as many interceptions as Shedeur threw all throughout his 3 years in his 1 season at Colorado State. So obviously Braden was, he made a lot of great throws against Colorado. He had a lot of bright moments. I imagine Colorado State is going to push for that Mountain West title this year. I think this year's test should be a little bit better, but I do think Colorado should be able to handle them a lot easier. Now, back to Jay Norvell and his sort of continuous jabs at Colorado. And it's not even like what he said. It's kind of like the way he's saying it. Like he brought up Braden's stats to sort of tear down Colorado and Shedeur. Sure. Like, was it necessary to say that? No, but he did it. He brings up he's asked about Deion Sanders, and he says, I don't have any feelings for Deion Sanders. I really don't. I don't think about him unless you guys ask me a question about him. And I just feel like he's going out of his way to make it seem like he doesn't like Deion Sanders. I feel like he's going out of his way to sort of be like that tough guy, like, who cares? Who cares about Deion Sanders? And realistically, we know he cares. We saw his wife tweet about Shedeur. We saw him make comments about Deion Sanders last year. And so I imagine that this season, week 2 in Fort Collins, I imagine it's going to be a spicy one. I imagine there's going to be another personal, quote unquote, personal moment between the two. And I just don't know why he wants that, I guess. Like it's going to bring a lot of attention to Colorado and the Colorado State matchup, like it did last year. They had a lot of eyes on the game, but it's like, do we necessarily need this, right? And I would say no, but Jay Norvell is doing things his way, and whether his way is going to work out for him or not, I don't know. But I would imagine Colorado, who I think it's interesting because I wouldn't say they play for clicks, or I would say they don't care about clicks, but I would say they are very present on social media. So for them to see any sort of shot at Shedeur Sanders, I do think that'll be an interesting one to see if that's something they hold on to when they meet up next season. You guys comment below. Was this a personal comment? Am I reading too much into it? I just feel like he could kind of deflect questions about Deion Sanders in a manner where it won't make headlines. That's all I got to say. When we come back, we're going to be talking about where Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders rank on the newest EA Sports college football video game. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to fanduel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available, little word soup there. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in every single day. My everydayers, you guys know who you are. You guys know I appreciate you. Make sure to share this with one person, one friend, so that way we could grow this community even more. Okay, EA Sports College Football 25. It releases in 7 days, 4 days if you got like I don't know what the package was called, but there's an early edition package. July 16th is that day. July 19th is I think the average or the common day, if you will. So let's talk about it. They released their top 100 players, and people are upset. And this is how I know people aren't watching Colorado and are just sort of thinking of the Deion Sanders standard, where it's like, hey, they finished 4-8. How could they have good players? Well, one, that doesn't make sense, right? We know they're good. We saw that last year. We see the mock drafts. We see the NFL conversations. They're projected top 10 picks. So let's look at it. Shedeur Sanders came in as tied for first as the best quarterback in the game. 17th player overall in the game. 90 overall rating. 80 speed, which surprised me. I didn't know if he had it in him. I thought I'm way off on the ratings. I don't know how they rate people, to be honest. But I thought he'd be like a 77 speed, to be honest. Doesn't run a lot. Acceleration 85. He does get some giddy up. Like when he gets a runway, he does have some giddy up. So I agree with that. Strength 72. I don't know about that. I think he showed a lot of strength, taking 50 whatever sacks last year. Awareness 98. He's very accurate and he makes the right decisions. And I think a lot of people are like, how can you get sacked 50 times and have a 98 awareness? Because you make perfect throws majority of the time. Because you are making the right decision majority of the time. Jumping 84. I've never seen the guy jump. I couldn't tell you. Don't know if he could dunk or not. Not that it matters, but don't really know what the jumping ability is based off of for Shedeur Sanders. Travis Hunter, who they listed as a receiver, which I found interesting because I think that means he has a different rating as a corner. And as a corner, that means he was not ranked in the top 100. Interesting. So ranked as the 6th best receiver, 95 overall, 95 speed, 96 acceleration, 64th strength. I think they did him dirty, but Travis Hunter's he's not a bruiser, so it makes sense. Awareness 97, jumping 97. Yeah, makes sense. So one, what does this tell you about Colorado? Well, for starters, hell of a recruiting pitch. You got a cover athlete and you have 2 of the top 20 ranked players in the game. People are paying attention to Colorado. 2, it tells me that people are going to be worked up about this, and they are. There. And let me just, for reference, let me just go right here. Iowa record 2024, because Iowa, they were okay, right? They weren't anything special. I mean, they're in Colorado, obviously 10-4. They finished the year. Had they had a decent offense, who knows how good they would have been. But you look at, I don't feel like North Carolina did that well. They have a Minnesota guy. They have a Cal guy in the top 25. They have, just scrolling, and this isn't me trying to shoot anyone down. They have a Texas Tech guy. They have a Jackson State left guard in there. They have a Virginia safety in there. So all the people who are like, oh, they're giving Colorado the boost. Oh, blah, blah, blah. If people are good, you're going to get a high ranking. It is what it is. But this means a lot for Colorado because I think this is a selling point. I think this is like hey, look what you could accomplish here. And every positive aspect that Colorado does is a selling point for recruits because up until now, there's questions about everything. It's like, will I get NIL opportunities in Boulder? Will I be considered one of the best players? Will I be on TV? And so far, Colorado's proven that you could do all of those things and be at Colorado. The only thing that they haven't proven yet is that you could contend. And this year, if you contend for a Big 12 title, you're contending for the playoff. So Colorado is poised to have a huge year. I think it's really cool that Shedeur and Travis are both ranked so highly. I think it's an awesome moment for Colorado fans. And I'm really interested to see who else ranks, like where the other Colorado guys rank, because those were the only 2 that made it in the top 100. So Thought that was interesting. You guys comment below. Is the rating too high, too low? And who's the next highest rated player in the video game? Excuse me. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. This has been another episode of Locked On Buffs.